Hello, everybody. Welcome to the induction cooking class today. If you guys don't know, we use induction technology for these classes. We prefer them over gas because they use electricity and they're way more efficient than a gas or a coil stove. There's no residual heat because it uses magnetism to heat the pan directly. And it also reduces the indoor air pollution. And chefs say it's a lot easier to control the temperature on it. And then we are sponsored by East Bay Community Energy. They serve the Alameda County and they buy clean power and deliver it to your home using PG&E power lines. And you guys get all the benefits for clean power. And if you guys wanted to rent your guys' own induction cooktop, go to ebce.org/induction cooking apply. And it's totally free to get a loaner for a whole month. Without further ado, I'll put the recipe in the chat. But our chef Kelvin will take it away.
Thank you, Irving. Hi, everybody. Welcome. It's in April and it's just about springtime. So today I'm going to do one of my favorite recipes for you guys. Today we're going to do a vegan pesto, a spinach pesto grilled cheese sandwich, and that's going to be paired with a tomato soup. It's just a basic, simple tomato soup. As we all know, we love anybody that loves. You can have this dish throughout the whole year. It's not just for winter, it's for the summer. So let's get started, shall we? Okay, so first things first, guys, what we want to do is I want to get started with our pesto. Reason being is because I want to make sure that all those flavors for that pesto are going to be all combined together. So when we add it on to our sandwich, it's going to be delightful. All right. So first things first, we're going to need is our induction burner, and we're also going to need to do is we're going to toast our pine nuts. Okay, so we have about half a cup of pine nuts, raw pine nuts, and we want to toast these bad boys. Okay, now when we're toasting these things, we don't have to worry about putting any oil in here or anything like that. They already have natural oils in there, so we don't have to worry about that at all. What you want to do is just go ahead and you want to add your pine nuts in there, and the key thing when it comes to toasting any type of nuts is keep your eyes on it. Okay, make sure that you don't keep your eyes on it because these things can burn really, really fast, and we don't want that. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and start toasting these up, and also too, sometimes you kind of wonder to yourself, how do I know when to stop toasting? I usually like to go off the fragrance of it. Okay, when you start toasting these things, you can kind of start to smell that really, really strong nuttiness of the pine nuts. That's what you're looking for. Okay, so we're going to make sure that you're tossing them around so they can just coat and then toast evenly. All right. So while we're waiting for those to toast up, we also want to make sure we get the rest of our ingredients together. So let's push this to the side, and then also what we're going to need for our pesto is we're going to need 2 cloves of garlic. We're going to also need about 6 ounces or 2 healthy bunches of fresh basil, and about a 1/3 cup of olive oil, and 1 medium-sized lemon, and some kosher salt. That's it. That's all. That's all you need for a good pesto. Now, we all know too that pine nuts can be very, very expensive, and they are. So there is an inexpensive nut that you can use as well too. So if you do have walnuts, you can also use walnuts for pesto as well too. They work just the same. It's just the same thing, same process. It's just making sure that you're toasting them before they go in. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and just give it a nice little toss real quick. You can also see when you're tossing it too. You can also see it starting to get nice and golden brown. That's another indication that your nuts are toasting really, really well. But like I said before, I really love to go with the sense of the smell. Okay. You can also do it in your oven, but I've had a lot of experience doing them in the oven, and I've burned them over and over again in restaurants. And I'm kind of like, I'm like a little bit jaded by it because every single time I burn nuts, my chef was always like, okay, every time if you're burning anything in here, you're paying for it. And so we had a pot, and trust me, I put a lot of money in there. Okay, so I know now to make sure usually when I'm toasting anything, I'm doing it in a pan so I can keep my eye on it and it will not cost me anything. And plus these nuts, especially pine nuts, are very expensive too, so we don't want to waste them. Okay, so just keep on toasting them a little bit. You can start smelling it already, and I love that smell. That smell is like one of the most delicious smells in the world. I swear, the toasted pine nut. All right, so while we're waiting for that, what I'm gonna go ahead and do is I'm gonna go ahead and add my basil in here. Go ahead and toss that in. Also gonna go ahead and add my garlic in. Okay, and then afterwards, I'm gonna wait for my oil later on. Now, if you're low on basil, you guys, if you're low on basil and you kind of want to beef up your pesto, you also can use spinach as well too. Okay, so I know that you probably want to get that really nice flavor of that basil, but if you have a little bit of basil, even like what I have right now, and you want to beef up, you want to beef it up a little bit more, then just I would say just saute a little bit of spinach and add it in there. Okay, they won't know the difference, but also so you still get that really good flavor. Okay, all right. Looks like my pine nuts are toasted really, really well. I'm gonna go ahead and take them off. I can look at them right now and see they're nice and golden brown. So I'm gonna go ahead and take those off. Be careful not to lose any of these. Get all that in here. These little buggers here, they are very, very tricky. All right. Now we got that going. Now I'm gonna go ahead and do is I'm gonna go ahead and add my pine nuts into here as well. Beautiful. Oh, that smells so good. I can just do this. I swear, if I can find a recipe or have a recipe of that includes basil or pesto every week, I will. I just did a pasta this week, and I did like a basil cream pasta, and it was so good. So I'm loving basil right now. All right, so now that we got that going, we're gonna go ahead and do. I'm going to make sure you guys can see this. Okay. Now we're gonna go ahead and do is I'm gonna go ahead and add my olive oil in here. I'm gonna give it a pulse. Okay. All right. Also, too, real quick, I'm gonna go ahead and get my medium lemon in there as well too, because that's gonna also add for that liquid that we're gonna need too. It's gonna help everything blend out. And the thing about the lemon too, you guys, is it really helps keep that really nice bright green color. Okay, that's what that lemon is really like. It's good for flavor. It's definitely there for the flavor as well too. But it really helps keep everything nice and bright and green. But also too, with just a third cup of olive oil, I don't think that's going to be enough for us to really get our. If you guys worked with blenders before, you guys know how they work. And sometimes, you'll just sit there and it'll just be blending up really dryness. So you want to make sure that we have enough liquid in there to kind of kickstart everything. All right. So let's go ahead and get this a blend. Looking good. Now, what I would like to do too is also like to have myself like a little wood spoon or a spatula just to make sure I scrape it down the side so everything gets incorporated. What I'm going to do before then, is I'm going to go ahead and add my salt to there. So about 3/4 of a teaspoon of salt. You don't want too much, but that salt is really just going to really enhance that flavor. Okay, it's really going to enhance the flavor of that pesto. All right, and all those ingredients. All right, we're almost done with this, and then we're going to move on to our soup. Now, Now, as chefs, it's very, really important that we taste our food. So one thing you want to make sure you do is have yourself a spoon because you want to make sure that you are tasting your food just in case you need to add a little bit of salt or whatever else in there, okay? I'm going to give it a nice little taste. This is nice and bright and green. Look at that beauty. Beautiful. I love it. Mm. Nice. That's perfect. All right, we're gonna put that to the side, and we are done with our pesto. Now, we're gonna let that sit for a minute because I want to now get going on to our soup. Now, first thing about our soup is we're gonna need to dice up a nice medium-sized onion. Have my onion here. One thing about onions is how you dice up to where it's a lot easier. Sometimes onion can be very, very tricky. But what I like to do is I like to keep this in right here, the root. I like to keep that intact because it keeps everything together. Because if I take that off, then all my layers are going to come apart. Okay, and that makes everything a little bit harder when it comes to dicing these up. And then it also makes it easier too when I want to peel it. And what I do now is I go ahead and peel this back, and it comes off real easily, just like so. Just a little disclaimer, I just moved into a new place and I have a nice little compost bin here. And as you guys know, if you've been to my class before, you know I'm a big fan of my compost. So now my green thumb is going to be a lot bigger than what it was before. But I'm going to go ahead and move this to the side. I'm going to save this for compost. All right. And then we're going to go ahead and just dice this up. Okay. Next one. Always make sure too you check out all your layers too, because sometimes you may have an extra layer on here. As you can see, you got an extra layer on here too. So you want to go ahead and get rid of that. Okay. It's a nice little dice to get everything back together. And then we're just gonna go ahead and cook these off because we want to get nice and soft. And we're also gonna add carrots to this as well. So for our carrots, what we're gonna do is we're gonna make sure we do like one medium-sized carrot. If you have a medium-sized carrot, and you're just gonna slice it really, really thin. Okay, you're just gonna slice it into really thin rounds. You know, you don't have to make it into you have to dice it up or anything. That's just nice slices because at the end of the day, it's all gonna get blended up anyway. Okay, so we don't have to worry about any of that. All right. Now that we got that out the way, as you can see here, I also had my carrots here. The carrots are ready to go. I'm gonna get my onions out of the way because we're gonna start cooking this stuff up, okay? Now you don't want to caramelize these things, okay? That's what we're not gonna do. We're not gonna caramelize them. We're just gonna cook them until they're nice and soft, okay? So go ahead. And grab my pot and get that on. All right. So for our soup, that's what we're gonna need now. So now you can also use, so for this, we're gonna you can use olive oil or you can use coconut oil. I'm a really big fan of coconut oil, so I'm gonna use about 4 tablespoons of coconut oil. Okay. This. Grab my spoon, give myself a little bit of little hand. There you go. I'm gonna have to MacGyver this, as you guys can see. That should be enough. And then we're gonna go ahead, we're gonna add in our carrots and our onions first, okay? And let all that melt. Now, one thing I like to do is I love to multitask. I'm a huge multitasker. So, you know, when you work in the kitchen a lot, you know, you learn to multitask. If you're putting something on and you know that it's going to take a minute for it to get done, you know, then I make sure that I have another option, another something else to work on, so it cuts time in half. So, being that this is the tomato soup, and I have my tomatoes, I want to make sure that my tomatoes are cut in half. So while this is heating up, and I'm gonna go test my oil real quick. So also too, big thing, big tip. Always make sure that your oil is hot enough, okay? Always make sure that your oil is hot enough. Don't throw your anything if you're sauteing something or cooking anything with oil. Make sure that oil is nice and hot, because if you're not, you know, you're gonna do that, you know, takes a lot longer. So I'm gonna go ahead and get that going. Now that I have that going, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna start prepping my tomatoes. As you can see here, I have some beautiful heirloom grape tomatoes here. So I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna cut these in half, guys. Okay, I'm gonna cut these right in half. Really easy to cut. If you have a paring knife, you can use a paring knife. If you do not have a sharp knife, what I suggest you do too, check to see if you have a serrated knife. A serrated knife works just as well as a really sharp knife, okay? So make sure you get that going. 1 second. All right. And just make sure you're keeping an eye on your tomatoes, okay? And make sure you keep an eye on your onions and your carrots. So again, we just want to cook them until they're nice and soft, okay? And then I'm also going to do is I want to keep a couple of these, because I'm going to use these as garnish. I really love these really dark red and like green heirloom ones. So I'm going to use that. I'm also going to keep a couple of the bright yellow ones. They're really nice, very good for color. I'm going to definitely keep those as well and put those to the side. So I really love these heirloom ones. And then I got some basic ones too. And I don't need that many, just a couple of them, you know, just for one bowl. As you guys know me, I love presentations, so that's what I'm going to use that for. Now, once those are done, and they're going to cook for about 3 to 4 minutes, going to saute for about 3 to 4 minutes, then we're going to go ahead. We're going to add our tomato. We're going to add a little bit of stock, a veggie stock. We're going to add a little bit of agave, because we want to complement the sweetness of the tomatoes. As the tomatoes cook, they're going to have a little sweetness to them already, but I want to complement that anyway. So, you know, I'm going to add a little bit of agave to it. You can use agave, or you can use a sugar substitute. But honestly, I really appreciate and I love agave. You know, it does wonders. It does wonders. I use it a lot in my home, whether I'm having like, you know, any type of snack, and it calls for some type of sweetness. I go for the agave all the time. It never fails me. If you don't have agave, you can also use, I use coconut sugar. Coconut sugar is really good. I did a recipe where I needed a little bit of simple syrup last time, and that coconut sugar did the job. All right, I'm gonna put those to the side. Let's check on these real quick. Gonna bring this back over real. All right, here we go. All right. All right, let's see how we're doing here. Now, what we're gonna do as well too is I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna add my tomatoes in. Okay. I'm also going to add my stock. So for my stock, I'm going to need about a cup of veggie stock. Beautiful. And then we're also going to need that my agave, my sugar substitute, which is going to be my agave. Okay. So for agave, we're going to need at least about 2 tablespoons of agave. Just to beef up a little bit of the sweetness. But when I tell you I stand by this recipe, you guys, I stand by this recipe. All right, we're gonna go ahead and get that going inside here. All right. And then also too, I'm gonna add a little bit of salt, okay? You can see, or you can already see all those really bright, vibrant colors right now. This is all gonna turn into a nice soup, okay? And what we're gonna do is gonna bring this to a boil and we're gonna let this simmer, all right? We're gonna let this simmer for about 10, 15 minutes. And so while this is simmering, what we're gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and we're gonna start putting together our sandwich. We have everything that we need. We're gonna let that come to simmer. And one thing I love about these induction burners, like Irvin mentioned before, is that they they get hot really fast. They warm up really fast. Okay, so that's one thing I really love about this. All right, so add my salt to there. I'm only adding a little bit right now because I want to adjust the salt later on. If I need a little bit more, I will add a little bit more. But for right now, I'm just going to add what I need for right now. Okay. And this, in the meantime, in between time, let's go ahead and put that to the side. We'll give our space a little bit of clean up. Because a clean workspace is a happy chef. That's something else I definitely stand by. All right. Make sure our camera is right. All right, there we go. There you are. All right. And as you can see, it's coming to a nice little simmer. And again, we're only doing this for like about 10 minutes, okay? About 10 to 15 minutes. What we're looking for the tomato to get nice and burst open to release a lot of that liquid, okay? And then from there, we're gonna do is we're gonna let that move that from the heat and we're gonna blend that up, okay? We're gonna add a little bit of basil to there, and then we're gonna go from there. So now that we have that, now let's look at our sandwich, okay? One thing I love a good sourdough. Use the sourdough, that's one of my favorites for grilled cheese sandwich. And typically you go to the store and get something that's already sliced up. But me personally, I like to slice mine up myself. Reason being is I'm a big fan of nice thick pieces of bread when I'm having a grilled cheese sandwich. Not a fan of the ends, so I'll cut a little part of the ends off, and then I'll get maybe like about 2 inches thick. And then what I'll also show you guys too is the key to when you are making a grilled cheese sandwich, how to make sure that everything is really nice and melty at the end of the day. All right. So what we're gonna do right now is we're gonna go ahead And I'm gonna take my 2 bare pieces and I'm gonna go and grab that pesto that we made earlier. And I'm gonna spread some on there. Now it's really up to you how much you want to use, but I'm a big pesto fan, so I'm gonna go and get myself a nice little spread on here. It's beautiful. It's really good for any type of sandwich that you like. But for this one, I'm a real big fan of that. All right, beautiful. And make sure you get both sides because we spent a lot of time. We spent some hard work making this pesto. Okay, and so why shouldn't we be able to use as much as we want? Now, I don't suggest you guys use a big amount of it because you still want it nice and crispy. But you know, you can use a good amount. You know, you can use a good amount for that. That's a nice amount right there. I'm gonna put this to the side for right now. Always clean as you go. That's my motto: clean as you go. Because if you clean as you go, you don't have to worry about cleaning up later on. All right, let's take a look at our soup, our tomatoes. Look at that. They're looking good. They're starting to burst open a little bit. They're nice to soften up. Those skins are coming up. That's how we know. A nice little mix up. And I'm gonna let it go for about another 5 minutes, okay? Now, let's talk cheese, shall we? Cheese. When it comes to cheese, I'm a big fan. I have one brand that I always stand by. Okay, and this is that child cheese. It's very, very good. It's very plant based. You can get it at any store, in your vegan section. They have a variety of different ones. They have a cheddar one. This one right here, we have a smoked one. Um, it's more of like a smoked Gouda. It's really, really good. And then we have their creamy original as well too. But I stand by these. I make these a lot, and I swear the creaminess of this cheese is really, really good. They don't have like the stringiness of it, but that's totally fine. They do have that nice stringy creaminess of a really good cheese. You can also use this for mac and cheese as well. So try them out, guys. I can stand by these, okay? And so for this one, I'm going to take a couple of each one. Just make sure you wrap these bad boys back up again once you're done with it. And so for this one, I'll do maybe 2 of each one. We'll see. You know what? This one's looking like they want to have 3, so we'll go with 3 of this one. Okay. Right. And then from there, we're gonna do is bring our bread back over. Let's see how we're looking with our soup. And what you're gonna do for this one is go ahead and just gonna spread this across like so. And I'm gonna kind of like mix them up, you know, do 1 of each all the way across. Beautiful. All right, move that to the side. Let's check on our soup again. I think our soup is all just about ready. All right. Yeah, this is what we're looking for, you guys. You want to see all the tomatoes start to burst open and kind of like break down a little bit. That's really going to help, okay? So now we're going to go ahead and take this off and move this to the side, let it cool down for a second. And from there, now what I'm going to do is, what we want to do now is get the rest of our sandwich together, okay? So what we're going to need now is we're going to need, only thing we need now for our sandwich is we're going to need some spinach, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to saute a little bit of spinach, about a couple of handfuls of spinach. Let's see here. So what I'm going to do is add a little bit of my vegan butter in. And for vegan butter, I really like to use Good Earth. That's my favorite type of vegan butter. It's really good. It's like more like, but as you can see, this one right here that I have is called Earth Balance. Earth Balance is, you can find this one a lot too, but this is a really good vegan butter that I like to use. And so what I'm going to do is go ahead and melt down the butter real quick. And with my induction burner, it's going to melt down really fast. And then I'm going to add about a bunch of spinach in there, and I'm just going to wilt it down. As you guys know, spinach wilts down really fast, so we don't have to worry about taking too long, okay? But the key to this is, you all know when we wilt down spinach, it has a lot of liquid in there, right? And so what's worse than a soggy grilled cheese sandwich? So what we want to do is, when we wilt down this spinach, we want to make sure that we also have a plate or a bowl with maybe just a paper towel in there, because what we want to do is you want to drain out as much of that liquid as possible, okay? So looks like my butter's ready to go. I'm gonna go ahead and add my spinach. Now it looks like I'm putting a lot in there, but you also gotta realize too that spinach, when it wilts down to nothing. I may have like maybe 5 cups. I'm probably gonna get about a cup of spinach out of there, once it's wilted down. And that's totally fine, but I understand the science when it comes to spinach. All right. So go ahead and just mix that in. I'm gonna blast this up a little bit more right now. All right. Almost there. And then what I'm going to do from there is I'm going to bring over my trusty cast iron skillet, because that's my baby there that I love to use when I'm actually cooking grilled cheese. It gives it that nice crustiness that I'm looking for. I love working with my cast iron. They last forever. Okay, even if they go bad, you can bring them back just like that. Okay, YouTube it. It's easy. Okay, I've had this one for years. Actually, it's my grandmother's, and she's had that one. She's had that for years. But I always try to go and find me a nice little cast iron. And the thing about it with cast irons, you can find them in like thrift stores for really cheap. Go to your local farmers market. There's usually a guy out there, or somebody's out there who's like actually selling cast irons. And you would think they're expensive, but if you go to the right person and find the right spot, you can probably find a really good, inexpensive cast iron skillet or pot, and it's going to last you forever, as long as you take care of it. It needs tender love and care, guys. Okay? I cannot emphasize that enough. TLC when it comes to cast irons, guys. All right. So we got that going. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take my spinach, and I'm going to make sure that I squeeze as much liquid out of there as possible. I'm going to drain a lot of that liquid out, okay? Now, while that's happening, what's really key when you're doing this, okay, look at that beautiful thing. Beautiful. One thing what I like to do is I like to make sure that my pot is nice and hot. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to butter up my bread. Now you might ask yourself too, well, you already put this on, you already put the cheese on. That's totally fine. What I'm going to do, if that happens, if you totally forget to butter up your bread on the backside before you add anything spread on there and everything like that, what you can do is just go ahead, grab yourself a piece of butter, right? Move it around in your pan. I do this almost every morning anyway when I'm making toast, and I like it that way anyway. And I just mix it around real quick, and then I just spread it around just to give it a little touch on there, and as you can see, it starts to spread on there. Okay, so no worries, no foul. And then we can do the same exact thing. Now, when I'm making my grilled cheese sandwich, you guys, what I love to do is I like to go ahead and I like to put the cheese on both sides. I like to put it on both sides because and I like to put it on really low. I like to put that pan on really low. I want that cheese to melt really. I want that cheese to melt evenly, okay? But I also want my bread to crisp up. It's kind of like if you're putting your bread in the oven and you want to put it on low heat because you want to gradually, you want to cook it too fast. That's how you know you're gonna get a nice crispy grilled cheese sandwich, you guys. If you put it on that low heat and you just let it go. Okay, so we got about a good 25 minutes left. By the time we get this going, this is gonna be nice and crispy. You're gonna hear that crack when you put it when you run that knife over that bread. That's what we're looking for. It's all about senses, you guys. Just like earlier when we were talking about the pine nuts, it's a sense of smell. You know, the sense of hearing when you're talking about, you know, adding that oil in there, making sure that it's nice and hot. Because when you add those onions in there and you're sauteing something, you want to hear that sizzle. If you don't hear that sizzle, then that's the pan telling me I'm not ready. Back it up, wait a little longer, give me some time. Same thing when we're making that grilled cheese sandwich. If you don't hear that crackle on that bread, then you're not there yet. Okay, so you give it some time, and sometimes you got to be patient. When you're cooking, be patient. Okay, with your food. Unless you're in a rush, then sometimes you got to be in a rush, and then you know you got to just power through it. But you're not going to get the same results. Okay, and this is a grilled cheese sandwich with tomato soup. So you want to get the best results with a grilled cheese and tomato soup. Okay, so I have that on right now. I'm going to let that sit. Okay, now also what you can do too, you guys, is if you have that, you want that, make sure that cheese melts. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to get myself something to cover this up. Okay, I'm going to let this cover up and then let that cheese melt, and then I'm going to take it up because you also got to realize too when you're letting that cover, when you cover that up, all that moisture is going to be moved circulating around, and so you want to let that out. Okay, but what I want to do is go ahead and get that cheese started first. Okay, you want to get it kick started first, and then as that's going, then we're going to go ahead. We're going to finish that soup. I'm going to do it. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cover that up just like so. I can't find my lid for my cast iron right now. So, you know, sometimes I don't know if you guys remember, but sometimes you have to MacGyver things. Okay. So I'm going to tap into my inner MacGyver and I'm going to just put this lid on here like this and I'm going to let that work that way. Okay. And I'm going to move this to the side because now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my soup going. Give myself some room with some space. Beautiful. Let that go. All right. Now what we're going to do is let's get this soup going. Okay. So those nice bright vibrant colors. Now you can go ahead, you can throw this in a blender. But one thing I would suggest you guys do too, because sometimes you know blenders can be a headache cleaning out. You got to get your hand in there, and sometimes those blades are nice and sharp, and you want to and you jab in between your nail, and it's not good. And you're gonna spend about the next 4 to 5 days in pain. Okay, so one thing I did, I got tired of that. So what I did was I invested in an emulsifier. Okay, and this is what it looks like. It's like a hand blender, just like so, and it does the job. It's powerful. I've had this thing. This thing's been with me for about good 8 years now, and it still has like, as long as you take care of it, easy clean too, because you already know cleaning blenders can be a headache as well. Easy clean. You just twist it off, comes off, and you clean that part, and you just give this a wipe down. And then if you need to use it again, give it a nice little twist. And then it has two settings. It has a high setting and a low setting. So for this, we're going to go ahead and start blending this up, okay? Be careful because the soup can hot. It can be really, really hot. So I like to just give it like a nice couple of pulses. You can get real messy sometimes, even when it's on low. Then we're going to go ahead and just mix it around. like so. You can use this for a lot of different soups, you guys. Okay, so if you're making, maybe if you're doing, real quick, I gotta make sure I'm checking my cheese, my grilled cheese. Love it. Smells good. Yeah, make sure you keep an eye on your grilled cheese too, guys. Okay, because you can totally forget about this as well. Beautiful. All right. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna add my spinach real quick on top of my grilled cheese. I'm gonna add some spinach in there, and I'm just gonna do one side. And then once I do the one side, then I'm gonna go ahead and then make it into a sandwich. And then let it cover up and then let it finish off, okay? This one I'm gonna put it on really, really low now. All right. Got myself a spatula. Move this to the side real quick. All right, let's see how we're working here with our grilled cheese. As you can see, I have my spinach on there. I want to make sure it's nice and spread out evenly. All right. I'm gonna go ahead. It's a little burnt there, but sometimes that happens. That's why it's very important that you keep an eye on there. And then I'm gonna really put this on low now to make sure that I don't burn the rest of it. And then I'm gonna really cover it now. Okay. Go back to covering it again. So as you can see, as you can hear, that's what we're looking for, that sound there. All right, now back to our soup. All right. Now we got that going. Now I'm gonna make this a little bit more creamier, you guys, okay? So now we're gonna do is, now that we got that all blended up, we're gonna just do it a little bit more. But first, before I do that, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put in about a half a cup of my plant-based milk. What I have right now, I'm gonna use, and this is one that I usually like to go for, is my Good Karma flax milk. It has a little bit of protein in there, but that's fine. But you can find this at Whole Foods. It's Good Karma. It's really, really good. I find you can find it at Whole Foods if you have a Whole Foods near you. If you have any type of really fine good store, you probably can find this. Okay, I live by it. I like to use the non-sweetened kind because sometimes I like smoothies or sometimes if I'm making the soup and everything, I want to have a little dash of vanilla in my tomato soup. Okay, I don't think that goes together. Maybe you do. Who knows? But I like to keep it simple when it comes to that. We're gonna add about a half a cup of that in there. Beautiful. Nice and creamy. It's gonna get that nice and creaminess going. And then we're gonna continue to blend. But before we continue to blend, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add a little bit pieces of basil in here as well too. So I'm gonna go ahead and bunch and break off a couple pieces of basil and add that in there as well too. It's gonna add to that flavor. You see it's got the creaminess already. Get a little messy, you guys, too, okay? So be careful. Make sure you have an apron on. All right, so you got that going. Now, again, like I mentioned earlier, you guys, you always want to make sure you're tasting your food, okay? Because this is where the salt content comes in at. You want to make sure that I don't usually put like a salt into any soups or anything like that beforehand. If I do, I add a little bit in because you got to realize too that as it cooks, it starts to concentrate, okay? It starts to cook down. As it cooks down, all that salt and everything concentrates and makes it a lot more saltier. So that's why when every time you see a recipe and it says salt to taste, or, yeah, you just salt to taste, okay? You just want to add a little bit in. So that's why you always want to keep yourself a spoon by, give it a taste. And then if you need to add a little bit more salt to there, you add a little bit. And add a little bit at a time, okay? If you need to add more, add a little bit more. This one needs a little bit just to balance it out. And I always go for it's like a pinch, and then I bring it back in there, and then I'll taste it again. Okay. You gotta make sure because the thing about salt is if you add too much salt in there, you can't take it back out. Okay. It's in there and you gotta start all over again. And sometimes that's gonna be a pain, and you gotta start this whole process over again. I don't like doing that. So I add a little bit at a time and then I come back and I try it again. It saves me a lot of time, it saves me a lot of money too. Okie dokie. Try it one more time. Ooh, I'm looking at our grilled cheese right now. That cheese is like melting out of that on the side. That's what we're looking for. Anytime you make a grilled cheese sandwich, you guys, if that cheese is not oozing from the side of that sandwich, then you need to keep it in there for a little bit longer. Okay. Let's try this real quick. Now, here's the thing with soups, especially tomato soups too, you guys, is you want a nice little balance of that sweetness. Okay, you want that balance of that sweetness. But also too, make sure that you got just enough salt. Because here's the thing about salt, you guys. This is the cardinal rule when it comes to salt. Salt is not used to flavor your food. Salt is used to enhance the flavors that's already in your food. So when we have those tomatoes in there, we have that basil in there, we have those carrots, those onions, whatever you're putting into your food. That salt is all it does is enhances those flavors. That's what you use it for. Nothing more than that. Okay. It drives me crazy when people are making something and they just add more and more salt in there, and I'm just like, oh my god, it drives me crazy. So I cannot say it enough. Just use salt as an enhancer of whatever you're making, because whether you're using spices or you're using whatever it is that you're using, it's there to enhance the original flavor of what's in your food, all those spices or herbs or whatever you're using. Okay. All right. I think that's good right there. I'm gonna trust my instincts. Let's see here. Yeah, that's good. I'm a happy man right now. Okay, so I'm gonna put this to the side right now because we got a little bit of splatter going on here. Okay, I want to clean this up because in a minute we're about to start plating up. Okay, this is one of the time we start plating up, and I love plating up. You've been in my class before. I love plating up things, and I love presentation because that's one of our senses. We eat with our eyes, So I love that. I love that aspect of food is being able to eat with your eyes. If you're at a restaurant and you're like, I don't know what I want to eat, then you're sitting there and you see the waiter come by with somebody's food and you're like, ooh, what is that? I want that because we eat with our eyes. Okay. Anytime you're making something, you eat with our eyes. Now, eating with your eyes sometimes can be good, sometimes it can be bad because sometimes we want a big load of something and you're just like, yo, I want all of that. But then once it comes, it's like, I can't finish all that at all. I cannot finish that. And then, then you're stuck there with this big old bowl of whatever. You got this big old salad or you have this big old steak you know, and you added the extra like, you know, mashed potatoes, and you added the extra French fries, and you're just like, I don't want this anymore. I don't know why I ordered this. But when it comes to cooking and it comes to plating things up, we eat with our eyes. All right, so gonna get our soup going right here. Found this beautiful plate here at a thrift store. It had a whole nice set of them. You know, gives me thinking about going to Greece. You know, had that really nice bright blue. I love this plate, but you can find a lot of different places. Find a lot of plates at a lot of antique stores or thrift stores. That has a lot of like character to it. So when you're plating things up, just think about like just go out and just grab plates, you know, and just try them out. You know, you may love them, you may not, but give it a shot. All right. So for our soup, go ahead. I'm gonna give it a nice little ladle. Beautiful. I'm only gonna give one ladle because again, I'm not gonna eat with my eyes. I'm just gonna do a little bit of it, and then from there, we're gonna remember those tomatoes I saved for. I was gonna save for later. I still have those right here. So I'm gonna go ahead. I'm just gonna place these right around like so. And we're gonna do one more here. Perfect. And then what I'm gonna do, you guys, too, is, and I want to compliment that pesto we have too. So all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and that pesto that we had that we made, I'm gonna take a little bit of it. I'm gonna thin it out. I'm gonna thin it out a little bit. Because I want to add it as a garnish. It's gonna go great with this. I'm gonna add a little bit of water to it. I'm gonna thin it out. All right. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and one thing I'm going to do, I love to do is sometimes when I'm prepping things and when I'm plating up is I like to just let the food do its thing. Okay. I see a lot sometimes you see a lot of chefs and they have the little tweezers and they're precise on where they're going to put it. But honestly, when it comes to art, especially with food, you know, you see artists that just go ahead and just do a little splat of the paint and it makes beautiful pieces. I like to do that with the food as well too. So what I like to do is I just go ahead and I just let it do its thing. I just roll it over there and just let it go. Boom. That's it. That's all. I'll come with a little bit of olive oil, like so. Beautiful. Look at that. Just that, you know. And it take me 15 minutes to just get everything precise. It just took me that much time. That's it. You know, you and food, it's like Batman and Robin, you know. You set them up for it. That's beautiful there. Now let's look at that grilled cheese. And go ahead and take that out. Mm. Now there was a little bit of crust there, but that's okay. I heard that a little bit of darkness is good for the gut too. So, so I'm not gonna beat myself up about it. So always make sure you got yourself a nice serrated knife, and then I'm gonna go ahead and just cut this on the bias here. That's what we're looking for right there. And then we're gonna go ahead and this is beautiful. And we're gonna have all that there. And here we have our grilled cheese with our tomato soup, guys. Now I already made myself. I had my meal prep for it this evening, but honestly, this is going to be my dinner at night, and we're going to hurry up and finish it before my girlfriend gets home because I know she knows that I'm making grilled cheese. She's going to want some, but this is for me. I put the work in. I'm going to enjoy it. Okay. So don't tell her.